All right, folks, after a couple of weeks chilling on the beach, welcome back in, folks, after 2 weeks of hiatus, and welcome back in, folks, to the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with you, folks, after again, a couple weeks away, taking some time off here, of course, for the start of the Olympic break, but now, folks, as we are in group play now for women's Olympic basketball, folks. But good evening and welcome in to this edition of WNBA 365 Rio 2016 Olympic Central. Back with you, folks, and after our 2-week vacation, joined alongside, folks, by Eric Nemchuk, the WNBA beat writer from today's Fast Break in Elmhurst, Illinois, and the other SoCal members of the broadcast team, Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart, both up in Los Angeles and back in studio after 2 weeks over in Hawaii. Cal McClurg back with you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Eric, KT, and Shorty, good to be back and seeing you guys again. I missed you guys for 2 whole weeks. It was a bit different not coming on here every night and talking hoops. And I know that we were gone for a bit, but again, glad to be back with you guys. How's it going? Good to see you.
Hey, I didn't even realize Shorty was in yet. Hi.
Hey, Crystal and everyone else.
I missed you.
Happy to have the band back together.
It feels great having the band back together. But with that, though, folks, like normal, of course, Facebook and Twitter, wide open for you folks at facebook.com/WNBA365 or hit us up on Twitter like normal at WNBA365, at Calimac3, at ShortyMamba24, at Pup1010, or at NemChalkE with the hashtag WNBA365. Or if you're doing this live, folks, hit up that live chat box with your commentary throughout the course of our program, folks. I do have to apologize, too, if in fact tonight the microphone quality on my side is a little bit iffy. I pretty much had worn out my regular microphone that I hold. Of course, I was using that for the past, for the games I was calling over in Hawaii. So if it is a bit rough, kind of bear with us. We'll get that fixed probably in the coming few weeks. With that, guys, I know that we were supposed to be here on Saturday, but of course, I needed a couple extra days to get back and reacclimated to the packed time zone. Of course, being 3 hours behind you guys, of course, was not easy for the past 2 weeks. But we will though get to the games from today at least and kind of break down more of the action from the upcoming week. We'll get to today's first game or the second game at least for everybody. First with Team USA, again after a record-setting victory in their first matchup against Senegal. They played Spain today, and again another triple-digit scoring streak for Team USA, a 103-63 victory for the U.S. over Spain this morning at 8 a.m. local time. We'll say the folks, but of course, kind of bear with us too. Again, we are only given first name and first initial and last name for the other countries, and of course, we know Team USA, of course, from playing in the W. But we'll do our best though to kind of get through the box score for you folks today. For Spain in the game today, Romero with 9 points, Nichols with 4. Dominguez with 6, and Alba Torrens, the leading scorer for Spain, with 20 this evening. Paolo with 8 points. Marta Chagre, by the way, was a DNP tonight or today for Spain as well. Rodriguez and Pascua, no points. Ana Cruz with 2 points for Spain in the game today. Quevedo with 1, Gil with no, and Aston Nador from San Antonio with 13 for the Spanish side today. For Team USA, Lindsay Whalen and Simone Augustus with 6 points each. Sue Bird with 9, Maya Moore with 8, Angel McConkey with 10, Brianna Stewart with 9. Tamika Catchings today held scoreless in only 8 minutes played. Elena Deladon and Sylvia Falzall with 12, Diana Taurasi with 13, Tina Charles with 8, and Brittany Griner with 10 points in the game today. Team USA, led by as many as 40 in this contest, also had 56 points in the paint and got 55 points off the bench and led this game for 37 minutes. Spain only led for a minute and 10 seconds in this morning's contest. And Shorty, I know that we had saw a record-breaking performance for Team USA in the first game, of course, that 65-point victory over Senegal. It was to the point, though, Shorty, where the fans in the building were rooting for the opposing teams to score points in the game. And again, today, another one for Team USA. Again, trailed for 70 seconds, pretty much for 70 seconds today in this game. But again, all around, though, again, another great game for the Americans today in this ball game. And again, DT so far has really had the hot hand scoring points for Team USA so far. Shorty, all-around thoughts about Team USA for today at least, again, with another lopsided victory, again, a 40-point victory following up a 65-point win over Senegal on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it was another dominating win for Team USA. You know, you talk about, them only being down for a few seconds, and of course that was in the first quarter, and that was due to, I think, just a little bit of tiredness from just playing Senegal, the day before. So they came out just a little with a little rust or whatever from being tired, but no, after those few seconds was over, they just, oh my goodness, blew the house down. Spain, they did, try to keep it as close as possible, but it was just no competition whatsoever. DT, having a great game, 13 points, yeah, being the leading scorer for Team USA. She came out and set the tone for the team. She has been doing it in, the past 2 games so far, and, leading the team, to victory.
Crystal, I believe seeing some stats today in regards to this again that with Diana scoring the points today that she did past Cheryl Swoops, moving up the leaderboard now for U.S. Olympic scoring this morning, and again pretty much this like we already said again, Spain did get the lead though today. Again, they led for a minute and 10 seconds, but again KT, you just see that experience, you see the cohesiveness of this U.S. team. Again, putting up almost 30 points in every quarter in the game earlier today. Once more, and again, DT, as Shorty said, though, again, has sort of been the tone setter or trend setter for the U.S. side as of late. Crystal, overall thoughts on Team USA's victory? Again, a 40-point win following up that 65-point victory on Saturday here today against Spain.
Honestly, I ended up turning the game off at a certain point because it's kind of like if you watch. Can you guys hear me, by the way? I was having technical difficulties.
Yes.
It's kind of like if you were watching Team USA men's team just dominate all these players. It was pretty much the same thing today. Like both of the teams, men and women's team, they started off kind of slow, but once they got going, they got going. And honestly, I started watching table tennis or something at that point. Like it was kind of not watchable in a sense, if you will. And I was just like, whatever, on to the next event.
And Eric, I think, though, that's kind of been the problem, though, I think, with both basketball teams for Team USA is sort of been that detraction after maybe a quarter, maybe at halftime, you'll go and find another event to watch. I know that there's been much more and maybe better content to watch, more so than what we've seen from the basketball side. Of course, we've had other things in the Olympics so far. But again, Eric, more so today, 5 or 6 players for Team USA in double figures again. But again, more so, everyone in some capacity getting minutes tonight and also scoring points again. Eric, is there any final thoughts about Team USA again with another blowout victory for their second straight win to kick off Group B play?
No, not really. I mean, they're regressing to the mean a little bit. Like they only won by 40 today after winning by what, like 60 something?
65.
Yeah. This USA team. I think it's a lot of fun how they're able to share the basketball. It says 23 assists is actually kind of a low number for them, I would say, but just the way they're repeatedly able to get like all the superstar talent and kind of get them to gel together almost instantaneously it's really something special, I think, for basketball fans.
And Eric, I agree with you to kind of echo it too. I think that's kind of a lost art, though, I think, and especially, all-star games or even Olympic play or FIBA plays, it's tough, when you have all the star power on a roster that you really can't, they really can't distribute the ball enough to get everyone touches and then get everyone points. But again, Eric, I agree though that we have seen through the 2 games again very good ball movement by Team USA. They've been getting everyone involved in some capacity, either getting the subs in the game quite often or what have you. Shorty, too, Spain real quick, sort of touching base on some of the notable names again. Alba Torres is a great player overseas with Ekaterinburg the past few years. Dropped 20 points, and notably for us WNBA fans, Marta Chagre again was a DNP. Anna Cruz with 2 points, and then Aston Nador with 13 points. So Shorty, at least out of those 3 notable players again, okay, you got 20 out of Torres who's your leading scorer. Nador, who again we've not seen a whole lot play with the Stars this season, again has 13 points. Anna Cruz chips in 2 at least, but again, Shorty. I probably would start with Nador first in this aspect is, I know that we don't see a lot of, especially a player like her, does not get a lot of playing time in the W, but when she goes and plays overseas and you see the playing time, it's like great things can happen if they get these players or this player into a game. Shorty, thoughts about Nador's games today for Spain? Again, 13 points on a 5 of 16 game from the field and 3 of 12 from beyond the arc. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think, she had a solid game, especially, in this matchup. And yeah, I do think minutes, when it comes to that, is a game changer. She saw much of the floor. And of course, you would think that just because she doesn't get many minutes, in the U.S., that she would somehow be, a little bit timid or whatever the case may be. But no, she has long been playing against, WNBA competition. So, of course, when the matchup against Team USA, she really came out and showcased what she could do.
And Crystal, I think that's kind of the problem sometimes, or not really a problem, but I mean, it's been a kind of a trend, I think, with international talent that come into the WNBA as rookies, and again, don't get the chance to really show their colors and show their stride. I think we've seen it though with Faria Abdi. We've seen it with a lot of other players that have come to the league that have better overseas careers, a la Sandrine Gruden when she came back to LA in 2014, again when playing with the Kattenberg with the French national team. But Crystal, I mean, when you see a player like Nador, again, have a good game like 13 points, again, and you see what they can do on the court, but again, when they come back over to the States that they don't play a whole lot, Crystal, what does that say, I guess, in your mind in regards to the difference between both international play and WNBA trying to get all these players into a game? What do you think?
Are you saying like on the sense of how well they're playing and their comfortability, or do you mean just in general?
Yes, their comfort level, indeed.
I think they're probably more comfortable because they know a lot of these players that they're playing on these international teams with, whereas when they come to the WNBA, I mean, it's a new system for them. I mean, a lot of them probably have never left their country before, and it's a new experience for them, and they're adjusting to time and food and stuff like that. So I think the fact that they're with their national team, they know a lot of these players because they played with them from when they were little. I think it's easier for them to adjust to whatever play it is that they're calling. And on top of that, a lot of the coaches in WNBA, I guess they don't know how to use a lot of these international players yet because some of their games are different. So I think that is why you probably see more of international players play better when they're with their said international teams.
So, Eric, I kind of want to, talk about Spain in more so than any individual players again, and I know that that normally most times, not all the time, but most times that international talent or international tournaments such as the Olympics, FIBA, are normally dominated by either the U.S., Japan, Australia. But Eric, maybe in the next few years, maybe 2018 for FIBA, maybe 2020, where do you perhaps see Spain with this, with their core of talent right now? That could they perhaps be a factor sometime soon, though, in future games, maybe whether it's FIBA or the Olympic Games?
Yeah, I definitely think they could. They have got some good young talent. You already mentioned Endor. I really like her potential. She's got that really good international game. She's long. She can face up. She can stretch the floor. She's kind of that prototypical stretch four that's really popular in the international game right now. So I think she's got a very high ceiling. They've got Lady Romero at point guard, who, whenever Laia Palau is going to retire, I don't even know, but when she retire, they'll be in good hands with Lady Romero. I think she'll be drafted to the WNBA as well. So they're going to have to replace Sancho Little eventually, which is it's harder than it may look because she's one of those players who she does everything so well defensively. She's so fundamentally sound on defense, and she just gives you that energy that you just can't really replace. So they're going to need to find a replacement for her, but they do have a good young core, as you alluded to. And with teams, like Australia, they're not getting any younger. France was kind of up in the air. Brazil, I think we're kind of seeing take a little nosedive recently. I think, Spain definitely could be a factor on the international circuit, probably as soon as the next FIBA World Championship.
Which will be held, folks, right now in 2018. Next FIBA World Championship tournament going to be held in 2018. Couple comments, guys. Misreading these for the past 2 weeks. A couple comments real quick from Christy Wilson, who says, "Hi, guys. Missed all of you." Glad to hear, Christy, because I missed everybody on this panel. Missed all of you folks out there tuning in this evening. And the man in the box, Todd Mintz, also says, wants to pose a question to you guys real quick. He says, what will matter for this U.S. team is when they play Australia or Japan. Shorty, in Todd's mind, he wants to ask, will Japan, Australia, or any other nation give the U.S. a game in the give them a game for pretty much a run for their money in the Olympics this year? What do you think and why?
Hold on.
I do not see Japan, giving them a run, even though they do have a lot of good, talent with Takashi, the Seattle Storm, and I think Japan's guards is pretty solid, but they don't have enough firepower. I think Australia will be that team to give them that challenge, and I also think Canada as well. Canada is another big name on the Olympic circuit that I think will give Team USA a challenge as well.
So, Crystal, to go back to Todd's question again, he's asking, between Australia and Japan, these are your two options, Australia, Japan, or will anybody in the Olympic field give Team USA any type of run for their money in your mind? What do you think?
Probably Australia. I mean, they did it to them in the I guess you could call it an exhibition or scrimmage game. So I think Australia is probably the only one who would actually really scare Team USA. I thought it would be Russia like it was in 2008, but I don't really know if Russia has produced a product like that in a while. But probably Australia.
And Eric, what do you think? Australia, Japan, or anyone else will anyone else other than maybe Australia, Japan maybe give Team USA a run for their money in any round in your mind in the Olympic Games this year? What do you think?
I mean, what do you consider a run for their money? Like a 25-point game? It's not, I'm being serious. Like, I'm not even trying to be like nationalistic. I really don't think anybody like Australia would have the most realistic chance, I think, but they take a significant hit when Cambage is out of the game, and that's where USA is at its strongest, is at center. They have three really good centers. Brittany Griner, she's taking a lot of criticism, I think, from myself included, this WNBA season for not really maybe playing as well as she should, but she's really played well so far in the Olympics. So if she can at least neutralize Cambage or play her to a draw, if you will, I don't really see Australia competing with USA. They need to have a really good game from three, and they just need USA to miss some shots. That's really what it comes down to. USA they have too many weapons, and they just need to have an off game in order for anybody to really have a chance against them.
And so far for 2 games, folks, they've been on and they have been in fuego the past 2 games again. A 65-point win in Game 1 over Senegal and a 40-point victory here earlier this morning over Puerto Rico. And in regards to Aston Nador, guys, Todd says she's talented, and again, by watching her play, this is why Hughes has been wrong in sitting these young players. The first time he saw her play, he says he knew she could do the job in the league perhaps sometime soon. But again, Team USA over Spain, 103-63, a final score earlier this morning down there in Rio. Next game, guys, from today in Group B as well. Canada came back to beat Serbia 71-67, a final score here today after pretty much a tough one for the Serbian national team. Kia Nurse, 25 points, leading the way for Canada here today. Also notably for the Canadian national team today as well. Natalie Achanwa had 1 point today, and Naira Fields had 8 this evening for Canada. For the Serbian national team, notably, it goes to Ana Dabovic of the LA Sparks with 14 points, notably, and also Jelena Milovanovic with 19 as well. Her sister, and also Ana Davic's sister Malika was held scoreless for the Serbian team today. But Shorty, more so Canada refusing to give up in this game, refusing to say die again, coming back with a 26-10 fourth quarter. Kia Nurskin had a monster game, 25 points. Was really the only player that really had any type of pulse for Canada so far in the game today. Shorty, final takeaway from Canada's comeback victory over Serbia earlier this morning.
Yes, sadly, I did not, get to see the matchup, but I did see a couple of tweets, on my timeline about it, and I saw that, when it came down to the final minutes, it was really close. A lot of Canada fans were, clutching their pearls, hoping that it wouldn't be an upset, but Canada came through, so it was a great win for them.
Crystal, I saw some like Shorty. I watched some of the game. Was looking through Twitter as well. And again, you see Kia Nurskin just really carrying the load again. 25-point game for Nurse. Her final line, by the way, 7 of 11 from the field, and 3 of 4 from beyond the arc and 8 of 10 from the line. 25 points, was also a +5. And again, Crystal, more so, she was really the only player tonight that really showed it because she was the lone player in double figures tonight or today for Canada. And again, great comeback win again for the Canadians. Again, 26-10 fourth quarter. Crystal, final observation about Nurse carrying the Canadians to the finish line and getting the dub today in Group B play.
I mean, let me get this right. It's Kia and not Kaya. I know how to say this one, but Kia Nurse. I mean, obviously, I think all of us in the Hangout have been watching Kia Nurse for a while. Especially, since she is a Yukon Husky, or as a lot of people like to say, the Huzzies. But I think we've been watching Kia Nurse for a while, and she's doing what I thought she would do. I mean, I think she is Canada's main player. They obviously they have Natalie Nchanwa and Ayin there, but it just seems like they are going to rely on Nurse a lot, and Nurse really did hold it down for them. I mean, I thought for a second there Serbia was gonna beat them, and that would have been a very good win for Serbia. But excuse me, there's a frog in my throat. But I mean, obviously, Canada came and pulled it off, and I'm not surprised. I mean, Canada, honestly, they're probably the third or fourth best team in in this basketball competition right now. So we'll see if Canada can keep it moving.
Ribbit, Crystal. How about that for you? But again, Eric, I think, though, it's a bit more, I don't want to say alarming, but I think it's a little more, maybe even frustrating, perhaps. Not even that, but I think somewhat, again, that Nurse is the only player for Canada in double scoring figures, again, 25-point game, and no one else really was close except maybe 8 points for a couple other players. But again, Eric, I know that we've talked about burnout in the W with certain players, but again, today, though, was about Nurse with 25 points. But again, Eric, I guess overall thoughts, though, again, about Nurse, coming to the rescue for Canada and propelling them to the victory today in Group B play over Serbia earlier today.
Yeah, I think she's definitely the main reason why people were so excited about this Canadian team in the first place. We saw it last summer in the Pan Am Games. She was on a rampage. She pretty much single-handedly rolled them to a victory over the United States. And that really, I think, put her on the map more than anything. She does go to UConn, so that's kind of helpful a little bit. But she's one of those players who you can, just give the ball to and say, hey, get out of the way. I'm gonna win this game for us. Although, of course, in order for Canada to take that next step, they do need, as you said, they need somebody else to kind of contribute. I think they need more out of Natalie Nchanwa. She hasn't really made much of an impact so far, which is kind of disappointed in. I don't know. I think I was kind of surprised, to be honest, about this Canadian team leaving off Ruth Hamblin and Adu Bulgak from their roster. Because going into the season, I think people were expecting them to have a lot more WNBA talent than they do right now. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is behind that, but Kia Nurse definitely she's gonna be a WNBA player sooner rather than later. And this is just one of the reasons why. Like you said, players who play internationally, they get their that's where they kind of assert themselves before going to the pros. And I think this is just the beginning of something great for Kia Nurse.
Shorty, to the Serbian side today, probably a deflating loss for them in the opening round of Group B play again. Again, they had pretty much scoring across the board. I also did, folks. By the way, sorry about that. I left off Sonja Petrovic, 15 points for her today. But again, Shorty, this is probably, I'm not going to call it monumental. This is a pretty damaging loss in the group stage, I think, in my opinion, for Serbia. Again, pretty much, had the lead after they were tied in the first quarter. And again, they let Canada come right back into the game in the fourth quarter when it counted the most. And again, losing 71-67. Again, they had more. Obviously, they had more players scoring double figures. And again, so that they had control up until they hit that pothole in the fourth quarter, and they much melted down in the quarter. Shorty, overall final thoughts about Serbia and the loss for them today, and how much does this probably in your mind sting for them losing this game today?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that it does sting a whole lot, especially when they were that close. As I said before, Canadian fans were basically on heart attack, watch trying to make sure that they don't pass out at the end of the game from the potential final score. But luckily for them, it played out in their favor, and hopefully, Serbia will somehow, bounce back from this. 14 points, as you said, for Djokovic. She, you know, uh, somewhat carried the team, but they're going to need more from everyone.
Crystal, I know we always say, or at least now that we're starting to say, that every WNBA game means so much weight for the playoffs. Every game in Olympic or even FIBA group stage means a lot, because if you lose or stumble one game, you may not have a chance to get into the mix for the medal rounds of the semis and the eventual gold medal round finals. So, Crystal, this game I think does damage Serbia a bit. Not a lot, but it does, though, I think, weigh heavy on their minds that if they do stumble maybe one more time, that they are probably out of the running for any type of deep medal chase, perhaps, in the next coming rounds. But I guess, Crystal, overall thoughts in your mind about the pretty deflating loss for Serbia today against Canada?
I don't know. Well, I would only call it deflating because they were up by a pretty nice margin and Canada decided to come back. But, I mean, anytime you lose in the Olympics, especially, I think I was talking to Eric earlier, especially when you lose one game, knowing how tight this competition is, you're going to be in trouble either way. I mean, they still have a chance. I believe that was their first loss, I think, of this Olympics game.
Second.
Oh, second? Oh, yeah. Well, Serbia's pretty much done then. Yeah, so never mind. I was going to say they have a chance to compete for – I was going to say they had a chance to compete for at least bronze, but, yeah, they're done. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. You are the best of the best of your country, and you get there to hopefully win something and bring something back to make your country proud. But, unfortunately, somebody's got to lose, and they were on the losing side.
Eric, obviously, I don't think you put a whole lot of weight on the first loss, at least in the Olympic group stage game. But again, this was a game that I think Serbia is probably going to say, if we don't get any type of medal or if we go out early, this will be the game that we're going to be looking at and looking back and saying, what could we have done differently? Well, it was probably scoring more than 10 points in the fourth quarter and not allowing Canada to come back and follow you in the fourth quarter, which saw them, of course, win the game. Again, Eric, they had, obviously they had the better of the plate through three quarters up until the fourth quarter hit. Eric, I guess overall thoughts from you about Serbia's play in the game today against Canada.
Yeah, you got to hold on to that lead, especially considering Serbia, I would say, is the more veteran of the two teams. Canada, people are considering them to be the up-and-coming team. Well, maybe they'll compete soon. Maybe they've got the potential. But, no, like Canada came back and they basically just took that at 0-2. The problem is, like, it all happened so fast in the Olympics in preliminary play like this. Like, now Serbia's 0-2 in, 2 days, and now they're basically out of it already. So it really sucks for them. I think they definitely had higher expectations as opposed to a team like Senegal, who is just happy to be here. No, I'm serious, though. Like, I think Serbia, they've got the talent and they've got the pedigree, if you will, to kind of have higher expectations than 0-2 like this. But that's the way it goes. There's only 12 teams in the tournament, so you gotta make it count, and Serbia couldn't do that.
By the way, guys, I wanted to say hello to our main man, Steve Rice of Women's Basketball Daily, who wants to remind us Serbia still has to play Team USA, China, and Senegal for their last three group stage games. That's just a reminder to all of us about what could possibly happen with Serbia coming up. But again, Canada rallies back and takes down Serbia 71-67. Next game, guys, in Group A play today. Japan stops Brazil 82-66, 28-point second, 26-point third, and some internal fighting on the Brazilian sidelines is the main storylines of today's games. Or today's game, I should say. Main talking point, though, for the Japan side today, Ramu Tokushiki from the Storm, 23-point game for Ramu, 11-17 from the field, and did not attempt any threes, and also made her lone free throw on a and one play. And notably, for the Brazilian national team today, not a whole lot to really report, but we do have something to report, though. Clarissa dos Santos with 13 points, Damaris Dantas with 17, Erica de Souza with 10 points today as well here today. And also, notably, Izzy Castro Marquez with 20 points as well in the losing effort for Brazil today here as well. Shorty, starting with Japan first again. They did, though, have 4 players in double figures today, but again, Tokashiki, main culprit today, 23-point game for Ramu. And again, Shorty, we've already brought this up, though, once or at least twice already again. Another player, again, that seems to be in a better comfort zone or comfort level, at least, playing with the international squad as opposed to a WNBA squad. Shorty, give us your thoughts about Japan beating Brazil today in, of course, in the host nation's backyard in Rio today.
Now, this matchup I did get to see, it was close, I'd say around the fourth quarter. I mean, not the fourth quarter, the first quarter, and maybe like at least within the middle of the second quarter, and Japan just ran with it from there, and Brazil never saw the lead again. Like you said, Tokashiki, I mean, she played spectacular in this game. Also, the guards for Japan was just, hitting their shots, mid-range, three-pointers, they were solid, and basically Brazil just couldn't come back from it.
By the way, to echo that 3-point stat, 5 for 21 3-point shooting for the Japanese team today. But again, Crystal, we've already talked about this twice, but again, we'll do it for a third time just for the heck of it. But again, once more, you see a player like Tokashiki, again, young player in the WNBA, developing talent, but again, showing off, why that she came over to play against the best in the world in the WNBA. 23-point game, it's what she's capable of, but again, can that transition over, Crystal, for a lot of these, foreign import players? Can they really translate or bring their game from overseas to the WNBA? In your mind, can this happen for them? What do you think and why?
It can. I mean, I think this Olympic journey for some is going to bring confidence. I mean, you don't get to be on an Olympic team if they don't think you're one of the best 12 or 13 players in the country. So I think that alone right there is going to give a lot of these people confidence that we haven't seen them play with so far. So I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back and starts playing like she did last year. I mean, she had a pretty good rookie season. This year she's kind of so-so, but I think after the Olympics she's going to probably start kicking it up a notch.
And Eric, we already talked about Spain probably being a factor in a few Olympic games, maybe even in FIBA. Eric, what do you see about Japan possibly being there too in maybe the next 2 to 4 years before we get back to FIBA and the Olympics? What do you think?
I can't really say as much about Japan. I don't really know as much about their players as I do Spain. I do think Takashi is very good in international play, as you saw, as we're seeing right now. Yeah, she's totally comfortable. Like I think we kind of get the impression that in Seattle, you've also got diminishing returns. Like she's never going to be the number one option in Seattle. Like that's just not going to happen. That's no disrespect to her, but that's just not reality. Whereas on the Japanese national team, she knows that it's her team. She's probably the best player on that team. She's going to be who the team builds their core around it for the future. So she's definitely more comfortable there and able to showcase her talents in international play. So yeah, as long as they have something like that, I think they'll be in contention. I don't think they'll ever be, or in the near future, I don't think they'll be like number 2 or number 3 in the world good, but I don't think this will be their last Olympics at all.
I agree 100%, absolutely. Shorty, now as we now go to the Brazilian side again, Brazil gets, plastered 82-66, and again, I told Mr. Todd Mintz on Facebook earlier in the day that, he was giving me some updates on the game, but I said, here's another instance, though, Shorty, of a host nation, again, crumpling under the pressure of playing in their own country. Again, they can't live up to those expectations that have been set forth. Now, again, I'm sure there's not been a whole lot set or a whole lot of, expectations for the women's basketball team. I know that, there is pressure, though, always on the host nation to do well and play, for those gold medals for their nation. But again, Shorty, very, very, uninspired basketball being played by Brazil the past 2 games. They've been plastered in both games, and they've had turnover problems. They had 20 of those in the game today, and Tom Mintz also says, guys, in the chat box, really, other than Izzy Marquez, there's been really no other player showing up at the office for Brazil, and we'll get to his question, Shorty. What do you think has been the main problem, though, for Brazil in their 2 games that they have played so far in the games?
I mean, you brought up, them being the host country, of the tournament, and I do think nerves is a factor. But even though I wouldn't fully say it's nerves because this isn't their first go around. They've been you know in numerous Olympic games for quite some time now, so we can't always put it on nerves. I just think overall, Japan was ready, for them, and they didn't know what to expect. So by the time Japan came into this matchup, they were ready and they dominated.
So, Crystal, to answer Todd's question, fill in the blank for him. What is the biggest problem in regards to Brazil and how they've played so far in the Olympic Games? Your thoughts on that are what?
I think maybe their expectations aren't as high as they thought. I mean, that could be what it is. I don't think. I mean, Brazil has some pretty talented athletes, but I just don't think that they really dug deep enough. But I mean, honestly, I just think Brazil's kind of new to this in a way. So my thing is they just probably just had higher expectations of what they thought.
And Eric, what do you think, to fill in the blank, what do you think has been the biggest problem for Brazil through their first couple of games in the group stage in your mind?
The biggest problem for Brazil in the preliminary games has been their guard play has not been that good. Obviously, with the exception of Izzy Castro Marquez, who has been making basically everything. Like today, in this game, you see 2 of 15 from 3 as a team. That's awful. And they had more turnovers and assists. That's once again not good. Yeah, their guard play has really been not that inspired at all. And Erica de Souza is, as we see here in Chicago, she's getting old pretty quickly. She's not able to, carry the Brazilians. You say they were playing uninspired. That's true, and it's kind of odd when you think about it, because when you think of Brazil women's basketball, you think of Erica de Souza. She's the face of their women's basketball team. Always pumping her fists and getting the crowd riled up and everything. It's not enough to carry them anymore. So they need more guard talent. Clarissa Dos Santos playing great. She's going to be a part of that team for a while. I don't know how much Erica has left. I don't know how much Izzy has left. And for Brazil, I don't really think there's much in the pipeline right now, and that's definitely concerning for them, I would say.
Again, folks, Japan beats Brazil 82-66 in Group A action, guys. Last game for today, at least. China romping Senegal 101-64. All China today in the game, scoring 25 or more in the first and third quarter, scoring 21 in the second and 20 in the fourth for the game total of 101. Senegal with another loss after the 65-point defeat that they suffered at the hands of Team USA in the opening game of the Olympics. Notable stat line here for Senegal, their leading scorer, Traoré, 16 points for Senegal in the game. And notably for China today, Xiao and also Sun, 17 points each for the Chinese national team today. So, Shorty, another tough game for Senegal today, but I guess we'll kind of wrap up with this game more so. Really, sadly, no notable names that we know of here from the W or anywhere else. Shorty, overall thoughts, final observation, I guess, from China's victory over Senegal here today from Rio.
Well, to be truthful, I really did not get to see this game because, there were other competitions going on between USA men's and Venezuela. Also, a very great matchup between USA women's and Netherlands in volleyball. So, there were other competitions going on. But apparently, I think Eric already brought this up, that Senegal is basically the team that's just happy to be there because the score translated like they were just happy to be there.
You know what, Crystal, sometimes, though, I mean, the beauty of the Olympic Games is, this is a global stage, so you're going to have countries that, are making their first ever appearance in certain events. I believe I heard today that there was a country making their first appearance in a certain event. I believe that this may be Senegal's maybe first time on, first go-around maybe. I could be wrong here. But I guess, Crystal, I think, though, that, and I believe that Ann Myers-Drysdale talked about this, I think, on the broadcast with the women's basketball game on Saturday when Team USA was, pretty much, crushed them, by 65 points was. Is they're trying to soak in the experience more so again, and I know that we saw the fans at the arena again cheering for Senegal whenever they'd score points, and that kind of, I guess, has to make Senegal, these players feel good, though, as the fans are behind you, and that the score is way out of whack in this case. But I guess, Crystal, overall final observation, the last game for today's action in group play between China and Senegal.
I mean, it is too. Senegal is just happy to be there, but it's just funny how every time somebody says that, they remind me of Coming to America when he's just like, "I'm just happy to be here." That's why I was laughing. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Senegal, they pretty much put on for their country. Their country should be proud of them for getting as far as they did. I don't think anyone ever would have thought Senegal would have made it. And I actually remember hearing about them making it earlier. I think it was either earlier in the year or like sometime last year before, like when they were getting ready to do all this Olympic stuff. But I was even kind of shocked. I was like, oh, Senegal has a team going to the Olympics. It should be fun. But I kind of feel bad for them at the same point because they're such a young team and they've never been there before. So, I think it was a lot of nerves and a lot of not understanding what was going on. And then you see them play teams like USA, and you're just like, ooh, it's like a train wreck. You want to look away, but you can't. And then you feel bad, like you feel bad for them, but they're giving it their all, and that's all I guess you could ask for as a country that's watching your team. And we'll see if they can, get better within the next 4 to 5 years, and see if they will make another chance at the Olympics.
Eric, I think though, Erica, that's the beauty though of the Olympic Games is, like I said, you're going to see countries that don't have all the money that countries like the U.S. and other countries have to fund Olympic programs, and that they pretty much jumpstart from neighborhood teams or local village teams. And again, I think that Senegal pretty much is there again, developing for future, that maybe in the future that we'll see them maybe in 4, 8, maybe 16 years, hopefully not that long, but sometime soon, that they will be able to compete with the likes of Team USA and Australia in a few years. But again, Eric, any final thoughts from the last game between China and Senegal from today's action in women's hoops?
That's exactly right. And Senegal was actually, despite what the final score may indicate, they're actually keeping this game pretty competitive in the first half. I think it was a 4-point game, like somewhere in the second quarter. So it was close for a while, but it just was just a matter of one team has been good at basketball longer than the other one. Like you said, these countries they have programs where whereas teams like Senegal may not, they're just not there yet. I think yeah, definitely they're just maybe just kind of happy to be there. That was poor wording. I mean, I don't mean to be offensive or disrespectful or anything. What I meant by that was like, this is actually really big. It's a really big thing for them. There's only 12 teams in this tournament. It's big for a team who may not have much of a history for basketball. So when you're competing against a team like China, who is obviously a richer basketball history, there's really not much you can expect other than just to be competitive in the game and, like Crystal said, give it your all and use it for the future. There will be future Olympic Games. Heaven allow. So hopefully they can use this as a building block and drum up more interest in their basketball program and just go from there.
Definitely a building block for Senegal and all these other nations that, again, are competing in their first Olympic Games. Building block for all of them. But, again, China over Senegal, 101-64. Other games from the day, again, folks, Team USA over Spain, 103-63. Canada came back to beat Serbia, 71-67. And Japan beats Brazil, 82-66. And, again, China over Senegal in the last game for today, at least, 101-64. Okay, guys, getting to the action for Tuesday in the Rio Olympics for group stage play. Again, folks, by the way, all game times are still Rio times due to the FIBA website, again, being in Rio time at this point. First game, guys, tomorrow at 8:15 Rio time, Australia and France. Like we do, guys, in the WNBA, we'll go around the block here and we'll get everyone's picks for the game. Shorty, first game is the Aussies and the French national teams competing again. That's the Australia team and France. Shorty, what do you think?
Oh my goodness, both teams have been on, fire in this competition, both up 2-0, but I'm going with Australia.
One vote for the Roos. Crystal, how about you?
I'm going to have to go with France. I think France can pull it off. I mean, the way that they beat Belarus was a heartbreaker, but it's going to be a tough one, but I do think France can probably make it a competitive game, so I'm going to go with France.
All right, so even Steven, Eric, we have one vote for the Aussies, one vote for the French. How about you?
I'm going with the Aussies. I think they're the second best team in this tournament, and I don't think the French have the firepower and the perimeter to stay with them, so I'm going with Australia.
I would agree. So 3 of the 4 goes with the Aussies in the game tomorrow. The other game, the next game, guys, again, these again, folks, once more, but they are all Rio Standard Time starts. Brazil takes on Belarus at 11:30 a.m. local time over there. Shorty, what do you think here in this matchup?
This matchup could go either way, but I'm ultimately going with Brazil because Belarus, now that's one team that I've been watching, and their guard play, I mean, it's not all that up to par. No disrespect, but if Lindsey Harden is your best guard, then yeah, your team has some problems. So I'm going with Brazil.
One vote for Brazil. KT, what do you think and why?
I'm gonna have to go with Brazil. It's over for Belarus. I mean, I'm sorry. You guys were cool. You guys, have a guard that I really respect out there, but I just don't think they could do it, man. If they end up pulling it off, I take back everything I said. But I'm gonna go with Brazil.
We'll keep the tape because this is going to be archived after the show's over, Thomas, just so you know. Eric, how about you? Brazil in this matchup, what do you think?
I like Brazil to take this game mainly because I think now they're just playing with. They just need to have a sense of pride to secure at least one victory in this tournament on their home court. And also, I just think they match up better against Belarus than they might against an Australia or a France or whatever. Because as we alluded to, their guards outside of Izzy Castro Marquez have not really played that well. But that's not really a strong point of Belarus either. So I think if they can take care of their front court height and rebounding ability, and they can probably take this game.
All right, all 4 of us going to go with Brazil. Last game for tomorrow, guys, at 1:45 local time, Turkey and Japan. Crystal, Shorty, what do you think?
This matchup, I'm going with Japan. They're another team that has been on fire so far, and Turkey on the other hand, not so much. So I'm going with Japan.
1 vote for Japan. Crystal, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with the upset and pick Turkey. I was actually expecting Turkey to be a lot better than what they are, but I've been disappointed. I've been bamboozled. I've been hoodwinked. So I'm gonna go with Turkey.
Kid, Turkey's like 0-2.
I know, but it's okay. I'm gonna go with Turkey.
So Crystal's going to go with Turkey via being bamboozled by their record. Eric, what do you think in this matchup?
I'm not going to say anything about being bamboozled, but I'll actually agree with Crystal. I'll just pick Turkey because I think they're the more veteran team, and I think Latoya, or Lara as she's calling herself in the Olympics, Sanders matches up well against this Japanese team. She's had to go up against some pretty intimidating, physically speaking, players in the post up until now, but I think this is a team where she can really take advantage of. And just their overall experience, I think, is going to benefit them a lot in this game. So I'll go with Turkey, and if Japan wins, then it's Crystal's fault.
So if Turkey wins, and then so Eric and Crystal are bamboozled apparently by the Turkish record. So I'm going to go with Japan in this matchup. But again, folks, the 3 games tomorrow, all games tomorrow are all Group A affairs. Again, that's Australia, France at 8:15 local time in Rio. 11:30 matchup Brazil and Belarus, and at 1:45 Turkey and Japan. All those games again are going to be those are again all local time starts down in Rio de Janeiro. Again for the next day of upcoming action here in the Olympics. At this point, Shorty, Crystal, and Eric, we'll now go back and revisit some of the stuff that happened over the vacation again. So, guys, I leave for vacation thinking nothing's going to come up, no news. We're going to be gone for 2 weeks. But yet, guys, news comes out, of course, following what had occurred, though, of course, with the recent shootings, of course, in Dallas and Orlando. Again, we're all, or 3 of the teams, of course, guys, we know, again, that made national news, of course, across every major news publication. But, again, originally, folks, in the Liberty, Mercury, and Fever were all fined, along with the Lynx as well. They were fined, of course, $5,000 per team, $500 per player, of course, for, again, not following WNBA uniform protocol, of course, with them, again, wearing the black T-shirts in support of the victims of Orlando and the Dallas Police Department shooting. That went on for a while, and, of course, it caused major uproar, of course, including a fan-run GoFundMe account for all of the teams to pay off those fines run by the fans. And ultimately, the WNBA did eventually rescind the fines handed down to its players and teams for that after some kind of review, following as well some backlash too from the NBA and their counterparts too. Shorty, I know this was major news. This was really much talked about on every major news outlet, from Fox News to ESPN and Fox Sports 1 and every other newspaper, Shorty, and that was really the only big talking point I even saw while I was over in Hawaii on vacation. And and Shorty, of course, I leave for vacation thinking, great, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, there'll be nothing to talk about, but yet they throw sand in my face, and they put this up there, of course, with this really ridiculous way, though, of really putting down punishment. Shorty, how about your overall thoughts on that entire situation? Again, there were fines handed out, major uproar and backlash from the NBA players, from the league itself internally. A lot of infighting going on there, but eventually the WNBA rescinds the fines. But again, Shorty, final thoughts again on a very, very, very pathetic and very ridiculous situation that the WNBA really got itself stuck into.
Yes, it was a very interesting situation, and of course I've read about it on the site, but it was basically a situation of players, wanting their freedom of speech, freedom to protest, for, and show support, basically, not necessarily protest against, but, show their support to the victims, of, the killings by the police, and then the killings of the police, the 5 Dallas cops that also was shot in the incident. But I just think the league itself was scared, and I think that they didn't want that kind of attention, because there was so many things going on. Just before the fines were handed out, there was a little incident in regards to the links in the Minnesota Police Department, who didn't want to cover their games anymore, and protect their games, because they took issue with the shirts that they decided to wear. So that incident happened, and of course that was all cleared out. But then the players wanted to show their support, and I think the WNBA and on behalf of the NBA really didn't know how to respond. So therefore, there were fines that were issued. But of course, according to the players, especially Misty Bass, she said before, the fines were issued, because the league sent out a memo, to the players and the National Player Association, and was, telling them, do not, alter their warm-ups and things like that. And she said they had asked if they could wear, league-approved warm-ups, but they never heard a response. So because of that, they continued to, protest and show their support. Therefore, the issues were fined. And then, as you said, the backlash, was thrown at the WNBA, including from, the NBA players. Carmelo Anthony, spoke up and, wanted to talk of his disapproval about the whole fines. And then I'd say about a day or two later, the WNBA ended up, rescinding the fines. And I mean, just hopefully, what I hope they both, the league and players, take from all of this is, they discuss, how to, properly, allow the players to show, their support, and allow them to have a voice. Because at the end of the day, it's not fair for the league to support one issue and, not, put their support behind another issue that the players, really wanted to support.
And Crystal, ironically, Misty Bass was also in Hawaii, but she was staying on the island of Maui. I was on Oahu, where I was, having my vacation, and she was also over there. But I talked to her, though, kind of over social media, though, and just was asking and stuff. And she said, that there really should be that the fines, should not have been that they were not justified, because the league did not give them a proper response about, they had requested or asked, like Shorty said, if they could have, worn, some altered uniform warm-up T-shirts, and the league didn't do anything about it. And, I kind of don't get, though, where the league gets off by doing this, because I don't. And again, guys, I know we hate to compare, the WNBA to male sports, but here in San Diego, tragically, we just lost one police officer in a in a shootout as well just last week. And the Padres for the game that night wore San Diego Police Department hats during batting practice, and they were not fined one penny. But yet here in the WNBA, players go out and wear non-colored warm-up shirts, and they get fined $500. So I don't see where in any realm that the WNBA can get off by doing this, and again, sort of taking away the players' right to voice their opinions about something in this instance. But I guess, Crystal, overall final takeaway though from this entire situation between the altered warm-up tops by all the teams that were fined during this break in the action.
I think she did the right thing. Well, first, I think the fines. I understand the whole uniform policy thing, and I understand, we should all look alike. But my thing is when somebody's doing something for a good cause, I feel like you should kind of just bypass that rule as long as they're not doing anything that says anything offensive. And I know people probably found that offensive, but if they did, I mean, sorry, can't really help you with that. But it's real life. I mean, that's something that's been going on for a while, and it keeps going on. And I'm proud of the players for taking a stand, and I'm proud of them for not giving up on the stand. And obviously it worked. I mean, she rescinded the fines. It's just weird. I mean, how are you going to say, oh, you're happy that the players are doing something that or they're taking a stand on something they believe in, but at the same time fine them? That's like I was telling Eric, that's like a guy saying, hey, I'm going to take you on a date, but I forgot my wallet, so you have to pay. I mean, it's so stupid to me. I'm glad that she came to her senses and rescinded the fines, and I'm glad she understood, like, okay, the findings wasn't gonna stop, this wasn't gonna end. So I'm glad they finally came to an understanding, and hopefully they can work with the shirt that they can pass around league wide to help them with the situation.
Eric, I think though as well that pretty much that the WNBA finally these teams thinking it was going to stop. I had a feeling though that everybody was going to wear a black shirt in some capacity. All the teams were going to, and they would have had to fine the whole league for doing so. And I think that they finally, that the light bulb came on and said, okay, we might as well do something else to think of a better way to do this. But again, Eric, I think that was a totally mismanaged situation because the WNBA probably knew though that eventually the entire league was going to do this in some capacity. We had moments of silence, we had videos being shown, we had a lot of tributes or a lot of things by the league being done. But also, Eric, a pretty interesting tidbit though that I saw, and again, this is sadly comparing another male sport to the WNBA. But Eric, Michael Bennett, a star defensive player for the Seattle Seahawks, at a press conference was asked about what the recent events of Dallas and Orlando, and he said, here these WNBA women's basketball players are really the only driving voice behind about voicing your opinion about something going on the national or global stage. But yet here all of my teammates and here all of the players in my league are sitting on their butts and not doing a thing about this. But yet we have these very talented women's basketball players actually doing something to kind of voice of change. So Eric, I guess in regards to that aspect, what are your final thoughts about this entire situation again that arose during the vacation period again about the league finding players and teams for again not following or complying with WNBA uniform protocol?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't even know where to start on this. This is, in my opinion, what happens when you have two sides who disagree on something who take absolutely no measures to try and understand where the other is coming from. I agree with Shorty. There's no way of really proving this, but I agree with Shorty in that I do think the WNBA was scared. I thought that because the Black Lives Matter movement is, for whatever reason, it's very controversial. Like I said, people don't understand. A lot of people choose not to understand or try to understand what it's about, which is that's kind of disappointing to me. But that's an entirely different story. But of course, the league mandated the support for the Orlando victims and the LGBT community after that tragedy. So I guess I'm just in agreement with everybody else and saying, how do you tell these players to advocate for something, which is a very just and noble cause, LGBT awareness and rights and what have you, but then step on them for standing up for something else? It doesn't make any sense. And it's also kind of insulting, to be honest with you, because it's saying like, well, yeah, you can advocate for this, but only because we think it's safe to advocate for it. This other thing, well, you can't do that because people might take it the wrong way, like we might lose viewers or whatever. Like that's not sending the right message. That's not saying the WNBA. It's supposed to be about inclusiveness and equality, and it is. It's still far ahead of any other pro sports league in the United States in those departments. But when you have them, saying, okay, when you have the front office picking and choosing and playing God as to what players can support and what they can't support, then how do you draw that line? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then of course they did up rescinding the fines and what have you, but only after strong opposition from basically the entire league, because what happened was there were only a few teams that got fined, and then the rest of the teams who didn't wear the T-shirts, they stood up and said, hey, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. So it was a bad move in more than one way. But even though the fines were rescinded, it's not over. Like, you can't. It was the system's way, if you will, of trying to keep them down, and they didn't step down. And I'm just really proud of the players for the way they handled themselves. And I really hope this doesn't happen again with the league. Although these are difficult times we're living in, as far as racial tensions and what have you. So I'm sure something like this will come up again down the road. I just hope that it can be resolved in a way that I hope the league thinks they take into further consideration, what their actions might be, the consequences of what their actions might be before taking such. I mean, these players, they don't even make that much money. Like, how are you going to fine them for that? But I'm done with that. I just hope that in the future that the league they consider the consequences of their actions more carefully, and both what messages it'll send and how everyone's going to react, because it was a terrible look for the WNBA. It was awful, and that really can't happen again.
Steve Rice chimes in, guys. Let's say real quick. He says the Rent-A-Cop walkout in Minnesota, he believes, freaked the WNBA suits or front office out a bit, in his opinion. Todd also says the WNBA wants status quo. They just care about the games that are played and are happy with whatever fans and ratings they get. The rest you have to be seen and not heard, in his mind. Sure, there was also some more, I guess, kind of uplifting or better news, more so than what occurred, though, with the teams being fined and all the other garbage that happened over there. But, of course, the other news, of course, guys, another WNBA great will hang up the shoes after the year's over. Penny Taylor officially confirmed to Doug Feinberg of the Associated Press this will be her final season in Phoenix, again calling it a career after a very illustrious 10-plus year career getting back to her days in Cleveland with the Rockers back in the early 2000s, before the long time spent with the Phoenix Mercury in the Valley of Some and also with right now 3 WNBA titles. Shorty, you wrote the story, but quickly we'll get everyone's final thoughts here. Shorty, in your mind, to start off here, final thoughts about Penny Taylor and her tremendous career across both the Opals with the Australian national team and through the WNBA. Your final thoughts in her career are what?
I mean, it's going to be, very sad, to know and, see her, just knowing that this is her final season. So after 2016 is all said and done, that'll be the end of Penny Taylor. But just hopefully all the fans, including everyone on this network, we'll all cherish, the times that, she played, whether it was in the U.S. or internationally, with the Australian national team also playing in the WNBL as well, winning multiple awards there and winning, multiple awards at the international stage, at the Olympics. So, I mean, she was just a winner overall. And for when it comes to the Mercury, I talked about it in my article. I said, she was the engine that make, Phoenix go. She's that DT's the superstar, but she's just the engine. They follow her lead. Even DT as well, took directions from her, because she, just has that IQ, that basketball mind, and she was a fierce leader for the Mercury and all the other teams she played for, and she'll definitely be missed by us all.
Crystal, just in 2016 alone, we've had Candace Wiggins, Tamika Catchings, Swin Cash, now Penny Taylor. We've had 4 players either retire or announce retirement from the league. 4 players already have done that again. Wiggins earlier in the offseason, Catchings also early in the offseason, Cash and Taylor both during the season. But again, KT, your final thoughts about about Penny Taylor's final season now officially set in stone, her last go-around here in 2016. Final thoughts about her career in your mind, what are they?
I mean, it's probably time for her to retire. I mean, every good thing must come to an end, and Penny Taylor, I mean, she's awesome. It was kind of sad. It's like when LJ retired, you know. A lot of people who have been watching these athletes in their respective countries know how great they are, and unfortunately, you have some people who just now know who they are because of only the WNBA. But you know, it's kind of sad to see them go. But if her body says it's time, and her mind is saying the same thing, then it's time. You know, you can't fight your mind, and you can't fight your body. If those are the two things they're telling you that you can no longer do it, then unfortunately you can't do it. So I wish her the best in whatever she's doing outside of basketball, and hopefully we see more of her in some kind of way, whether it's coaching or something.
By the way, Eric, Steve Rice says about Liz Cambage, he says she was quoted as saying she has no plans for the WNBA before 2019. So technically, it's maybe 4.5 players that have probably said quits or have called it quits this season. But again, Eric, your final takeaway or final thoughts about PT's career across pretty much across the entire basketball world in your mind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said it, the entire basketball world, because it's another player who has achieved, you know, such international success that you can't just look at the WNBA, what she's done in the WNBA, which is a significant amount, but she'll be remembered in Australia as probably their second greatest player ever, I would say, after LJ. But she is, in my opinion, probably the most underrated superstar in WNBA history. As Shorty said, you know, she's very important to that Mercury franchise. And she has perhaps the misfortune of being next to Diana Taurasi, if only because she doesn't get the attention that she really deserves, I think. She's just so intelligent and such an efficient scorer, and has been able to pretty much sustain that throughout her entire career. You know, when she tore her ACL in, I think, 2012, she was playing some of the best ball of her career, and people thought, like, hey, this might be it for her. But no, she was able to come back, and she was able to kind of reinvent her game to, you know, stay healthy and stay a contributor for the Phoenix Mercury before, you know, winning another championship in 2014. But yeah, you know, she's one of my favorite players of all time. She's just such a great, very fundamentally sound, very intelligent, just such a great scorer, efficiency-wise. And yeah, you know, and you talk about the international success as well. So I don't know how she wasn't on the WNBA top 20 list. I just don't get that at all. But I think the fans who have been paying attention around the world know what's up. That WNBA is losing a great.
Well, Eric, if you were to put PT on there and take a certain player off, you'd have half of my Twitter timeline rooting for the opposing teams that Team USA is playing against. So we'll just leave it at that real quick. In regards to this, Eric, to echo your statement, Steve Rice says that PT was LJ's version of Scottie Pippen on the national team during her time there. And in regards to Liz Cambage, Todd replies back to Steve saying that Cambage just needs to grow up. She's 25 years old and needs to learn she can pop off the way she blew off Tulsa. Hope she gets it together one day, hopefully. And I guess that was kind of like the other sidebar, I guess, before you wrap up here for the night. I guess that was like the other sidebar story, was the Twitter exchange between both Cambage and Andrew Bogut, I guess, that had pretty much stirred the pot there for the Australian men's and women's national basketball teams. In regards to, of course, Bogut bringing up Cambage's past of both blowing off the Tulsa Shock and also blowing off national team training camp to attend a music festival that I also ran and raved about over the offseason last year. Shorty, I know this is supposed to be a global, global games and global unification, but internal friction between two teams representing the same nation. Not sold on that one, Shorty. Is there any observations about Bogut and Cambage's war of words that happened before the games even began earlier on this week?
Yeah, that was some interesting stuff to see. Even though, to be honest, I can't really recall how the argument initiated. But I mean, when he just hit her with that clap back of her blowing off the, Australian national team, practices. I think because she ditched them for a green grass concert or whatever the case may be. I mean, that was just again a big clapback, but the exchange between those two was just interesting to say the least.
Yeah, Crystal, I know that sometimes, emotions run high. We've already seen it, talked about it, of course, with some scuffles in the WNBA this year. But again, I think that when it happens between, like, national team players, like in this case, again, it's Bogut and Cam Bajan, it pretty much got sparked up by something like some smart remark that Cam Bajan had put out on Twitter. And Andrew Bogut, again, slammed her with, recalling the music festival that she had went to ditch training camp. But I guess... Crystal, do you make anything out of the Bogut Cambage beef that happened before opening ceremonies this year at the Olympic Games?
I mean, I just think especially if you're doing something for your country as big as the Olympics, and the Olympics, honestly, I think the Olympics is the only time where the whole world actually watches a sport, whether they're into sports or not. I mean, only in the Olympics would you watch equestrian. Who's going to watch equestrian when it's not in the Olympics? I mean, who watches handball? You know what I'm saying? So I think when it comes to something as big as the Olympics and it's for your country, you need to be focused, especially if you want to be an Olympian, which is a hard thing to do. Not everybody gets to be an Olympian. Not everybody understands what it's like to make an Olympic team or whatever the case may be. So I can understand why she got slammed. If that was my teammate, which a couple of her teammates actually did say something about it, if that was my teammate, I'm going to ask her, why is you in a club trying to twerk or whatever when we have practice the next day, and this is big for us. And it's just like, there's people who want to be in your spot. There's people who would love to be in an Olympic team. I mean, I honestly thought Becca Allen should have been on the team this year. There's just imagine if that could have been Becca Allen in that spot. I'm pretty sure she would have taken it so much more seriously than Kane Bates did. And I can understand. I mean, I feel like that's disrespectful to your teammates and to your country when you're just like, oh, I'm going to go to a Beyonce concert. Forget practice, Beyonce here. It's crazy, but I think the flag that she caught was very necessary.
Yeah, no, I think everyone agrees. And again, Eric, I'll tell you what. I don't know which burn I needed the most aloe vera for. My sunburn on my knees from announcing the games in Hawaii, or Bogut burning Cam Bage on Twitter before the Olympics happened. I think I'd probably go with option B because, I mean, if you really want to, throw somebody on the bus, you bring up, prior track record, and Bogut slamming her was probably the best thing I probably saw before the games even started. At this point. By the way, guys, Christy Wilson agrees. She says Cam Bage equals brat, in her opinion. When she disrespected Andrew Bogut, someone who's won an NBA championship, has made me really dislike her even more. Eric, final thoughts about Andrew Bogut and Liz Cam Bage's beef and war words before opening ceremonies this year in Rio. What do you think?
To be honest, I don't really make that much of it. All I'm going to say is just think before you tweet, especially if you're if you're Crystal, like, nobody cares. You can tweet what you want. Like an Olympic athlete, like, you got to watch what you say because people are watching, and someone's going to take something out of context and hold it against you. But yeah, just think before you tweet, okay?
And as Crystal has told me before, but everyone now says screenshots last forever, and I'm sure that there's probably a few of those already out there. One final thought about this from Tom Mincy says her tenure in Tulsa brought us all down watching her. Issues with coaches. People want her to watch it. People want to watch a positive WNBA game. It is what we are all into. No one wants negativity from anybody in his mind. But with that, though, folks, man, it feels great to be back in studio and back with you folks here on the network. Glad to, of course, be back alongside the crew this evening of Shorty, Crystal, and Eric. Glad to be back with you guys again, and always, again, good to see you guys once more. But again, folks, we will be joining you folks back here tomorrow evening to recap the next game of coverage of women's hoops and the Olympics. And again, folks, hopefully you have enjoyed the Olympics so far. Very good stuff, not just on the basketball court, but also, guys, a lot of good stuff though as well with Team USA, with beach volleyball and swimming. So, folks, and continue to enjoy the other Olympic events. And we'll be back with you folks back here tomorrow to recap the next day of coverage for Rio 2016. By the way, guys, well, Steve Rice. You guys may have saw, of course, we put out that very big, nice graphic that I put out today listing everybody's name that has been a part of our network in some capacity in regards to either being on air or following us on Twitter. Steve says 300 shows. Congrats, guys, with a winking face emoji. This was show 302 this evening, but Steve, You were on that list, so thanks for joining us here tonight on the program and also being involved with the chat box this evening. With that, though, folks, for Eric Nimchok in Elmhurst, Illinois, and for Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart, both up in Los Angeles, and for the man back home in San Diego, Callum McClurg, joining you folks here from home base from Studio 171 in San Diego. Have a great night, folks, and we'll see you folks back here tomorrow night to recap the next day of coverage of Rio 2016 and more exciting Olympic women's basketball hoops, though. But until then, folks, for Eric, Crystal, Shorty, and Callan in San Diego signing off. And good night, folks. This has been the WNBA 360 final. See you folks here tomorrow night, and good night. Bye-bye.